I want to welcome my first three panelists on the stage, Barbara, Maike, and Melanie. Thank you so much for joining me here. And I think like there also again, like we just briefly had the discussion over lunch on like having different perspectives because Barbara, I think like you mentioned that global mobility is one of your topics. The other two are like a bit more deeply into global mobility, but I think like it's super interesting to see how does global mobility actually like how is it in the wider people space, etc. But before we dive in, first wanted to ask you for a quick intro. Melanie, do you maybe want to start?
Yes, of course. My name is Melanie. I'm the global mobility specialist within Proces, and Proces is a global investment company in tech companies all over the world.
Maaike van den Broek, Head of Global Mobility at Booking.com, based here in Amsterdam.
I'm Barbara. I am VP Talent and Culture and Community for Bitpanda, Austrian investment platform, mainly crypto.
Thanks all three for being here. And now dive right in with the first question. A bit broader. 2025 is just 3 months away. We're all busy with like strategy and budget planning. What do you think will be the focus areas for global mobility for next year? Do you want to start?
In general, or for us as a company?
Both. Like, what are you hearing from others? But like, also, what is top of mind for you?
Yeah, for us, on top of mind is we're looking into creating a talent mobility marketplace so that we can also encourage employee development, but also business growth, of course. So knowledge sharing across our portfolio companies because we're located across the world. So we are also looking into opportunities of having short-term assignments instead of only permanent assignments, and also working from anywhere policies. I know lots of companies already have that or work with that, but we are looking into doing that more and more.
Yeah.
And I think also more companies will do that next year.
Hopefully.
Yes.
Maike.
Yeah, so for us, it's automation, further automation, I would want to say. This is a journey that we started actually about 3 years ago when I joined Booking, where we really looked at, okay, what are our processes, what are we doing, and where can we use technology to avoid human errors, but also to cut out repetitive administrative tasks where, you know, they need to be done, but we don't really add a lot of value there. So we're going to be looking into further automating whatever we do. Compliance is an important one, has always been important, obviously, but we see that authorities around the globe are becoming stricter. There are more controls. Fines are much higher. We talked about it over lunch. They're going up quickly. So it is a very important focus point for us. Talent development and how we can use mobility better and more to enable the development of our talent. And operational efficiencies combined with cost effectiveness. So it's not so much about cost reduction, but it is how do we wisely spend our resources, our money, our people's time, and what gives us the most ROI.
Makes a lot of sense. Barbara, maybe also from same question for you, but like with a twist of like where does it also sit in like the overall set of your priorities?
Yeah, I think for us it's very much focused on global expansion again. We've been, I think like most companies, been through quite a rough period. A lot of, the economic crisis didn't help, let me put it like that. So we scaled a lot, then we actually shrunk a lot again. We're around 600 people now, so very different scale to those two, to be fair. We didn't relocate a lot, and we moved from being hybrid to, still hybrid, not reinforcing it, to now really reinforcing it. So I think it's a couple of things for us. International scaling, meaning also where do we get international talent? Is that more local, or do we relocate more again? Do we put that back on the agenda? We are. And where do we add in the flexibility? So it's indeed the element of workations, digital nomads, visas. Where do we do more business trips for sure? And also the element of the 60 days work from anywhere that we have.
And I think all of you touched on it a little bit, kind of like business priorities and like also what is changing. But maybe diving a little bit deeper into that, like overall business priorities now, like this year and like the next year, that are shaping the way that like the company and like also then you are thinking about global mobility.
Yeah, I think we as Global Mobility are a business enabler. So we need to cater to our business needs. And there is no one size fits all. So we constantly, with our program, need to see what are the business needs and move with those needs accordingly. So yeah, if the business priorities are a driver for whatever we do.
I think same for us, right? It's the international scaling. The business priorities are very much on efficiency, cost reductions, or effectiveness, I should say, at this point. So so those two things are the main drivers of how we spend our money, where and why.
Yeah, same for us actually. Yeah.
And do you see? I think like it's also interesting in terms of like global mobility programs, and I think like what Lisa mentioned quite a lot is like the cost cutting part, and I think like that's for all of the global, like kind of like the existing global mobility programs, like relocations, also assignments, and I think like they're really looking at like where do we need to spend money, but then also what we've seen a lot is that the up and coming ones like workations, business trips, have a bigger factor to like unlock budgets. One of the very interesting findings in the report was that in quite a few companies, like budgets have actually generally increased because of that, while like for the long-term kind of like relocation assignment paths, they've definitely decreased rather. Would love to hear your take, like as much as you can talk about it, but like, do you see differences in terms of like what global mobility programs still get attention, budget, and maybe a bit more interest from C-level, and like where there's more of a cost focus?
Yeah, well, I can't say much about the cost actually, or the direction we're going to, because we're not so focusing on cost cutting. Actually, it's more about how can we enable talent within our company to develop and business growth, and that's more priority right now than checking okay, what do we need to do with the cost in terms of assignments. So we just want to enable people in our organization. So we're also more focusing on our internal employees rather than external recruitment.
Interesting.
Yeah, so we have a very large mobility program. So our executives are very much interested in it because we're the ones that bring the right talent in the right place at the right time. So yeah, all the elements have their full attention, and it's not so much focused, just like you were saying, on cost cutting. It is about getting the right people in the right place at the right moment, and being very customer centric. So also focusing on the employee experience to make sure that people start in the right way.
Yeah.
I think different stages of companies here again. Although we would love all of that, the enabling talent for sure, that's the goal in the end, although sometimes a bit more difficult to achieve that still, because C-levels in our case are very much focused on the international growth, the commercial side, and yes, get good talent, but sometimes there's some convincing involved to really get them to understand that that comes from different countries if you really want to get what you need there. So to your point, interesting question, because I think when it comes to actual relocation budgets, that needs a bit more convincing to actually get them over the line to invest more in that, where if you look at the short term, like the work from anywhere, the business trips and everything around that, that feels like less of an investment maybe because it's short term, so the costs are increasing, though the strategic costs need a bit more convincing.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Also, one topic that we talked quite a lot about, or like that I've heard and like mentioned in the keynote, is like the reactiveness of last years and like the changing priorities in terms of fully remote, hybrid, return to office, and like the impact on global mobility. How has that impacted you, and like how much of a shift was there from a company perspective, and like were you part of like those overall decisions?
Yeah, so I think with we have a hybrid working model, and that very often triggers the question, like, why do I need to relocate? Because I can work from home. So home is, I don't know, in the UK. Why do I need to be in the Netherlands? So it made us put a working from abroad policy in place, so that allows people to work from another country if they have the legal right to work and if there are no big compliance risks for 20 days per calendar year. but also it triggered the need to look more at commuter assignments, for example, which we already had, but we're getting more requests for it now because people say, yeah, why relocate if I can work from home and I have a home in my home country?
Yeah, sort of similar, but we are lucky that we have lots of offices across the world, and we also have a hybrid working model. But because we have offices everywhere, actually, that also allows people to do short-term assignments in these locations because we don't have to set up a payroll, for example, or have to invent everything because it's there already. So yeah, we can give these employees the opportunity to work, for example, from Spain because they are born in Spain and they want to move back because of their family, for example.
For us, things shifted after the economic turndown. We had a hybrid working policy already, but we didn't really reinforce it. After that, we did start reinforcing it because we could really see a culture hit. Like it was, like, of course, people were upset. We had to let go of a lot of people, especially in the headquarters. So making us focus more on in-office policy again. And for us, hybrid means 2 days in the office, 3 days working from home. But that does mean, from a recruitment perspective, of course, that people need to be close to the hubs to be able to come in. So it made it more difficult from a talent perspective, but also put relocation back on the agenda. Yeah.
And it's super interesting. I still remember in the first days of COVID, and like when everything was remote, the first argument that we of course heard also from investors sometimes, like, yeah, no one will now ever relocate anymore. And I think like they're often looking at like when is a relocation like more driven by the company, but like when also from the talent. And I think like now also looking at like how do we bring both interests together, because I think like often we can find alignment and like that middle ground. And I do think like the shorter term mobility options are actually great, because I think like then you can also, like, for example, for someone who's relocating quite far, then at least like give them the flexibility as well to spend more time in their home country, for example, or like also I think like across Europe. So I think that's an interesting part, like how we can use the flexibility despite more focus on the offices. And now that short-term mobility part is like something that I'd love to focus a little bit more on, because also one thing that I'm hearing sometimes is that people say workations and like the flexibility right now is just overhyped, and like right now companies are investing in it because they see a pressure there, but that they will definitely go back on that and like take away flexibility. What is your take? Do you think it's like here to stay? Do you think like that right now there's like more investments but it will be cut down?
I think workations are here to stay, just like the hybrid model. And it's also because, also what you mentioned earlier, younger generations want that flexibility. They don't want to work 5 days in the office anymore in Amsterdam, for example. They want to explore the world, and with workations they can, without taking leave days, of course. And you want to attract that talent, and you want to be interesting for them. And I think without a workation policy, it might be less interesting, because lots of companies will offer that. However, your company needs to be open for it, because it also involves compliance challenges, of course. And yeah, that's if up to the company if you're open to it or not.
Yeah, I think it's here to stay, definitely. And I think if you want to, especially in certain sectors, of course it depends on what you do, but like we're as a tech company, we really need to use that to, or we can use that to attract our talent and to retain our talent. And it's one of the important benefits that people mention. They're happy about it. And of course, they always want more, because we as mobility manage the policy and manage the tool that we put in place. So we ensure that we are compliant. So we also sometimes have to tell people, no, sorry, you cannot go there. And then they get frustrated. But yeah, I think it's an important one to have.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's here to stay. I don't think you can take that away, especially with the more international workforce wanting to work from home or get back to their family from time to time. And it empowers people to be able to do their work on their own time, in their own settings. So I think it's a very good thing, and I think it's definitely here to stay.
Yeah, 100%. I always find it fascinating to like now, because we've seen also during COVID, and the times that where everyone like just had to be fully remote, how much is possible. One interesting thing that I think like now it's probably too much to dive into, but that we see now coming into the debate and like being a bigger and bigger factor is like blue collar workers and like also what is possible there, like global mobility, like very different global mobility cases, of course. And I think like that is like one area right now like that we see like influencing 2025. But of course, like another very big area that I think we should rather spend time on is like tech, AI, automation. What can we do with that on the global mobility side? And I think like there, especially like the use of AI is like one that I hear great ideas about, but also a lot of like hesitations because of course it's a very complex field. But would love to hear maybe on one hand generally what you're seeing and like what you have like top of your mind 25 on the tech and AI side, but also if you have like one anecdote or like the most surprising potential use case for AI. If you have any story there, would of course love to always hear the new things.
The most surprising one I have to think about, but where we would use it definitely is for efficiency, automation, to make sure that you need less resources to do this properly, and also, of course, deliver a certain type of quality to all your candidates, employees, whoever that may be. So and add to the experience in the sense of cultural immersion, that type of stuff. So I think that's an interesting one to explore, how we can automate that more and add to the experience on all levels.
Yeah, and I work for a tech company, so you can understand that this is top of mind for us. So what we have an assignment management system, and we have linked that to the systems of most of our vendors, where we have two-way connections. So data are flowing real time between those systems. So we just have one system where we have all our information, all our data on our relocator population, which makes it much easier to report, I can tell you. And also makes it much easier because we don't need to go into a vendor's system to initiate a case, for example. We do that all out of our own assignment management system. Last year, we introduced an app, which we call Be Moved, which manages the relocation program for the employee. So the employee on their phone can check, where are my household goods? I still need to upload a copy of my passport for the immigration procedure. Just take a picture with your phone and you upload it in the app. What else have we done? We've recently built a bot that tracks immigration expiry dates. And we are about to launch a bot that helps us to initiate our cases in our assignment management system. So it pulls data from a ServiceNow ticket that a recruitment or HR needs to fill out to all the teams that are involved in the onboarding of new employees. And it pulls those data out and puts it into the system for us. So we used to do that manually, and that's now automated. We're checking invoices from our vendors with a bot. So that's also very helpful and really helps you to find some interesting things in there. So yeah, a lot of automation and more to come.
Well, I have to say we're also a tech company, but we're not that far yet. So yeah, we're also looking into these options to also enhance the employee experience, because that's our main goal. Of course, we want to make sure that the employee has a great experience, but also make the work easier for us instead of all the manual work. And yeah, we're exploring opportunities now how we can use AI to help us with that without losing the human touch in there, of course, because that's still super important, especially when you're relocating people, then they still need someone to talk to if they want to, of course.
Yeah. And maybe the flip side of the question, or like flipping it around, where do you still see the biggest gap or like potential for tech? Like where right now you haven't seen like any solution, anything like that's great. If Localize would have to like invest in one area, which one should it be? Selfish question.
The complexity is still huge, right, per country. So if that's I don't know how, but if that's somehow to be solved, that you can easily navigate that.
Yeah, the country combinations, for
Yeah,
example.
yeah.
If someone relocates from this country to that country, but has a nationality from another country,
Yeah.
if that could be more automated, that would help a lot. Because
And a
you
spouse
always...
from a third country even.
Yes.
Add
Yes.
all the complexity in
Yes.
there. That would be nice.
Because that's what we see more and more often, of course, because people, meet their partner somewhere else, they get children somewhere else, and then, it's up to
Relocate
us.
12 times.
Yes, and then it's up to us to solve that, and also preferably yesterday. So,
No, that's a very good point, and also very true. I think like they also see in case of like someone who has to like go to an embassy but like has a passport from a different country, etc. Like it's beautiful. Or then also kind of like how one topic that we actually discussed last week in Berlin as well is like also how family constellations change and like what's actually who's a dependent and also like how does that match like visa regulations? Beautiful complexities, but I know that we are like generally at time, but we started a bit late, so I wanted to also open it for maybe 1 or 2 questions because I'm probably not the only one who has questions here for my experts on the panel.
How you handle like the executive buy-in if there's issues that come from the top with maybe like budget cuts or just shifting focus to other areas, like maybe focusing on home talent rather than trying to bring others. Like how do you get them to buy into the importance of that?
Show the return on investment. Yeah. So I can tell you we recently did some data analysis and we looked into the retention rate, but also the promotion rates and speed, the performance scores, etc., from all our relocators. And we can show that there was a significant higher scores for our relocators than for our, let's say, local people. So those kind of things, if you can show that to your executive leaders, it's easier to get their buy-in. So use the data, I would say. We create a deck on a quarterly basis where we show everything that we do mobility related. So we show how many moves we do, how much we spend, how that compares to the previous quarter and the previous year. And using those data really shows what we do and the impact that we have. So I would say use your data to tell your story to your senior leaders and show the ROI.
And if you don't have that data yet, then it's actually also handy to just show what the obstacles are, right? Like if we're asked to, our headquarters is in Vienna, which is not a huge talent hub, to be fair. So sometimes it's quite difficult to find the niche expertises that we need there. So then it's really showing with insights, sometimes LinkedIn insights, talent insights, that this is what we can get in Vienna. We reached out to everyone. The response is 1%. If you go to other locations, then this is what you can get. So there's a good use case to shorten the time to hire and actually go for international talent.
Maaike, you mentioned the percentage, I suppose, of looking for international talent, local or internationally. And there's been so much data out there showing how diversity is key, right, for improving business. So I'm curious if you use, or all three of you use also the diversity, equity, inclusion kind of arguments to also promote the importance of global mobility and investing in that area.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can tell you that obviously we recruit a lot of tech people. And if we want women in tech roles, especially the senior levels, it's very difficult to find them locally. Our headquarters are here in Amsterdam, so our local talent pool would be the Dutch market. We find that very difficult to find them there. So we really need to basically expand our scope and recruit globally. And that's where global mobility plays a crucial role. And I know from my TA people that without global mobility, they would never meet their DEI goals. So that really shows the importance of mobility as well.
I can add to that. Same for us, actually. We need to relocate internationally. We have a lot of international talent in the hubs already, so they see the benefit of that. And even if it comes to not relocating, but hiring people on site from different nationalities, that's already something that they're bought into. So they, definitely sees the benefit.
I think like they're over. Hope you all stay until the coffee break. Then you'll also have a chance to network. But big thanks. I again learned something today. Was super interesting, and thanks so much for joining us.